This was back in the summer of 2020, and I was pretty much with my mom and my brother. We also had our dog at the time, so we were staying at this hotel for a couple of days. While the service there was pretty decent, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was definitely one of the good hotels that I can see. However, as most occasions, I did have to take the dog out a few times, but that was just a part of it, which he had to go out every few hours or so. I normally had to take him out before I go to bed, and it was around late at night. Now, I can't remember what time this was, but I was up pretty late. Normally, I am pretty much a night owl, and I'm basically up most of the night. Probably up till around 2 in the morning at the most likely. So I was taking my dog out so he can have one last pee, and it was probably around maybe between 1 and 1:30. So as I took the dog out for one last pee, as I was doing that, I noticed that there was something not right. It seemed like I was being watched, but I couldn't really tell what it was or if I was just being paranoid. I ended up seeing that there was a car in the far end, but of course there were a couple cars, but there was one car that looked like a shady vehicle. I didn't even know it was there, but it was never there when when my mom and I got here with my brother. Curious as I was, I walked up, thinking that maybe it could be some sort of vehicle that I had no idea what it was. But of course, that wasn't the case. When I walked up, I ended up seeing that there was this man. He seemed to be maybe in his mid 50s, and he seemed to be pretty decent with me. He basically asked me about my dog Bear, and Bear just kind of obviously sniffed him. Thought he was friendly, so I headed back after saying bye. But of course, that's when the next night got different. Night 2, I was out with my dog, and it was around 2 at night when I ended up seeing what seems to be the same guy walking to his car in the shady vehicle. My dog started barking at him, and I ended up trying to get my dog to be quiet, but no matter how hard I tried, he still wouldn't. He wouldn't stop barking, and I was just afraid it was going to alert everybody and wake him up. Fortunately, that didn't happen, Ben, though, so at this time, this was definitely really odd. I ended up going over to my dog and take him back in, but of course, I never reported this to my mom or anybody else. Mainly, they would think I'm just crazy, but at the same time, I didn't even know what this man was doing. I then later heard on the news, I think it might have been a rumor or something, that the same guy visited that same hotel I was at a week after my departure from it after staying there for a few days, that a young woman in her mid 20s was mysteriously stolen Lynn 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 items had been confiscated by them, and she was presumably killed in the parking lot late at night by assault. I didn't really know what much about this woman, but my prayers goes out to her that she actually lost her life. I still sometimes wonder what would have happened to me if Bear had not alerted them. So my friend was vacationing in a hotel in Lithuania. This hotel was pretty decent, and my friend at the time, we will call him by the name Harrison. Harrison was in his mid 20s, and he was visiting in Lithuania with his girlfriend, as well as his brother with his girlfriend. They were staying at this hotel for a few days as they were visiting Lithuania, as well as visiting some other places in Europe. Now, this was around their week 2 of staying in Europe, as they started off in Germany for a few days, then they went to Italy, and their next stop was Lithuania. However, after Lithuania, they planned to go to Spain, so this was one of the hotels in Lithuania they stayed at. Harrison and his girlfriend, as well as their brother, were sleeping one night when all of a sudden they woke up to hearing the car horn honk. Obviously, Harrison must have thought that maybe someone might have tried to rob in his car, so he went out to the front, but he couldn't see anybody. But then he saw a car that happened to be about to be breaking in, and there was a man who happened to be maybe in his mid 30s. He ended up seeing, looking like he'd been spotted, and then he ran off. Harrison tried to call out for him to try to get him to come back, but to no avail, he was already gone. This really started to make Harrison wonder what this one was doing, this man, but of course, he didn't even want to know what his intentions were. He never told his girlfriend or his brother or his girlfriend about this, and he still wondered, why was this man trying to break into cars? That's one question that will still be forever in his mind. So this happened in my hotel room when I was in a youth in action youth retreat thing, or whatever it was called. Now, this was around 2016, so I was about 17 at the time of the story. I was sharing this room with another girl named Cassie, and she and I developed pretty good friendship. She had some disabilities, and I did as well, and we shared some interests. One of them we shared was the fact that I like to read, and same with her. However, one of the nights when I was staying at the hotel, I think it was the first night, I was falling asleep and everything seemed pretty good. However, I woke up to the lamp being on my right, and I thought that I turned it off, which of course, that's what I did. I don't know if Cassie might have turned on to use the bathroom, but Cassie wasn't in the bathroom, and she sure was still sleeping. This got me a little creeped out, so I ended up turning off the light and closed my eyes to go back to sleep. But at least an hour later, the light was still on. I turned it off again and decided to go to the bathroom by using the flashlight I kept. But just as I came out of the bathroom, the light was on again. I ended up thinking that maybe this wasn't some prank, but somebody probably was in the hotel room. I looked everywhere, but couldn't see any traces of anyone there. This was really creepy, as I had never experienced anything like this before. I told some people and even the housekeeping to look in my room, but they didn't find any results in that. I think what I experienced that day in that hotel room with the lights flickering on and off on the lamp, was completely paranormal. So, this happened to a friend of mine who used to be a security guard at a pretty decent hotel. I can't remember the hotel name, but this happened to a friend of mine who was a security guard. One of his jobs was mainly just to watch over all the hotel hallways and make sure that no one ever tried to step foot, such as looking into doing something creepy or whatever. This security guard that I used to know was from high school, and he was at least a year older than me. His name was Riley, and he was doing a security guard job by looking up and down, making sure no one was ever in the hallway to break in or cause any trouble. As Riley was inside one of the rooms in the hallways, it was probably around 2 a.m. Everyone was still asleep at 2 a.m., so as soon as he went over to see what was up in one hallway, he heard what seemed to be a cackle of a woman. He honestly was startled, thinking that maybe someone was there, so he looked over, but he called his buddy who was in another room and told him to come up and see. Of course, his buddy did come up, but they couldn't find anything in that hallway. They even searched the hallway once again and even reported the laugh to the front desk, but to no avail. They still wonder to this day if this was paranormal or was someone really in that room. That really still haunts it to this very day, and it still does. For a bit of context as to what happened, this happened about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but however, this didn't really happen to me. but it happened to my friend when she was staying at a convention called Anime North. We'll call her by the name Charlie. Charlie was with her boyfriend at the time, along with their friend as well as his boyfriend. They were sharing a pretty decent hotel room, and of course, Charlie was there with her boyfriend when this happened. Now, I can't really exactly remember what floor they were at, but they were on a certain floor where Charlie couldn't sleep on the first night since she was just excited when she got there to do all the activities that Anime North would provide. However, though, but as she woke up, she ended up realizing that the room became honestly and oddly cold. Even it just seemed weird, but of course she checked. Everything was the temperature where it should have been, but she didn't even see a reason why the room all of a sudden felt cold. She ended up going to turn the heat up again just to be sure, and then she headed back to where she was. However, though, once she went back to bed, she ended up waking up to see that there was a woman standing over her bedside. Paralyzed and unable to move, this woman looked like a creepy smile, just staring directly at Charlie. All Charlie could do was just look at it. She couldn't even get up, she couldn't even scream. She was just horrified and even suddenly closed her eyes and felt that she couldn't move. She eventually woke up and the woman was not there. But eventually, when she told her boyfriend as well as his friend and his boyfriend, they said something that Charlie never expected. Oh, what you just experienced, Charlie, was a sleep paralysis. It does happen, and we all see things, even if they're different.